All right. Ooh, looks focused some Mocus there. There we go. Our merge headers on our bus mount. Mount's all bolted on. Headers reinstalled. A lot of blackness there. I have to make a spacer for the muffler. I'll have to install the motor and pick up a couple flanges. Or I'm thinking I might just whack this flange off, extend that collector out a little bit, and then re-weld the flange. I got a U-bend over there, the right size. And that'd save buying 2 collectors and making a piece. Yeah. So that's where we're at. The Mondo muffler doesn't bolt up. You can see there it hits the mount. So we'll have to deal with that and position it. Yeah, I have to get the bus going and see where that's gonna go. The mount didn't come out too bad. Let me pick the motor up here and I'll show you. Ugh. There you go. It's all capped off. Cap the ends off there. Cap that off. Welded it all up solid. And, looks pretty good. It's nice and strong. Doesn't seem to have any flex to it, so seemed to work out pretty good. We'll get that in the bus. I'm gonna get the oil cooler seals put on it, get the fan housing on it, and install it in the bus, and I can finish fabricating the collector or whatever we're gonna do there. So yeah, the fun continues. I thought just the mount would do it, but I was sort of scared the muffler might not work out. You can see how long the tube is on mine over there. It's pretty long, so. But I don't want to try to weld his muffler because it's HPC coated and that stuff doesn't weld very good. Welds aren't very nice on that anyway. But anyway, I've tried to weld this stuff before and it just doesn't respond very well to welding. So I think it'd be easier just to chop that off right there. It's basically a round pipe at this point. I don't know though, they have it welded all the way around here, and when I cut that loose I might have issues. So we'll figure something out. We won't get stumped at this point. So there we go, we got that bolted back on. Got the new gaskets on, nothing hits. So that's pretty cool. We can move on and get off the floor now. So anyway, that's where we're at. We put a flywheel seal on so far. We built the custom mount for the merged header. And should be downhill from here. So we'll get that up in the bus tomorrow after we have some turkey and see where we got to be. So yeah. So I got a question today in a video, and I'll go ahead and answer it the best I can. It was Fireball 02. He was talking about some go-kart stuff he's doing. And you had the carburetor that was on the motor there, and then you have another carburetor that there's an old alcohol race setup carburetor. You had something that looks sort of like this with the adapter for the K&N filter. This is right there. And you can get a K&N filter to fit that adapter with some outerwear. There's a place online called Dixie Karting. You can check with them. Here's another race carb, alcohol carb. The way you can tell the alcohol carb and the gas carb apart is you'll see that you have your adjusting screw right here on the side of the carburetor. It's a 1/2 inch, not the screw blade, but the nut back here. Take the nut off, and that's where your main jet will be. And if it's an alcohol carburetor, the jet should be in the 50s, upper 50s, mid 50s. And if it's a gas motor, it should be in the 20s. It's a much smaller hole. It may not even be marked. The one carburetor that you have on the motor now has the choke on the back of it. That's not usually the carburetor that, you know, they'd use for a race cart. I got all that stuff covered up. I got a pile of carburetors I'll get out for you. But the carburetor that has the choke on the back of it has quite a bit of restriction. When you look down in the carburetor in this area here, you have to blend these tops to the carburetors, and if you're going to race, it was WKA, I think, or when we were racing, there's a no-go gauge. They stick down in there, so it can only be so big. Same with the bore size. Some of these are outlaw. This is a cheater carburetor here. I can tell the hole's pretty big. And the one I built for Anthony, I built them a race carburetor, and then I built them more of a gas carburetor. The race carburetors are drilled out pretty big, and the reason they do that is because when you're racing wide open on caution laps, if you part throttle, it's dumping all kinds of fuel down in the motor. It cools it off. You can watch the cylinder head temperature come down. I actually got the carts put away right now in the garage, but we got tacks with data loggers on them, data loggers, and it records the cylinder head temperature, lap times, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so if I had to guess, the carburetor that's on the motor now is probably a gas carburetor that maybe they a lot of guys will have two tanks, one alcohol setup and one carburetor for fuel, and they'll run fuel through the motor, and then they'll pop the carburetor or the alcohol setup on for a racetrack. The alcohol runs the motor cooler, and it's a little more performance advantage, but for the street, gas would probably be better. But as I was saying, the one with the choke on the back has the restriction in the center of the carburetor there for where the air cleaner bolts to it. So that might be something that you want to not use. But hopefully that answers that question. And then I was watching your video, and I'm not going to lie, I fell asleep in the chair. You were talking about some sort of tube, so I have to go back and watch and see what kind of tube you need. But yeah, it seems like everybody's building go-karts. Maybe I'll do that if I ever get caught up. Never happened. But anyway, I got some good motors over here though. I got two brand new Rapture blocks there that have never been built. And then the $3,000 caps motor there. Yeah, that's a bad mamma jamma there. That's a stroker crank, 2-ring piston, long rod. And Noel's got my carburetor for that. I have to go pay Noel a visit. It's got a Tilston carburetor with a fuel pump. And I got to pick that up from him. And I need to buy a billet flywheel for it because it keeps exploding the cast iron flywheels. We built that for the stock appearing class. And that's bad mamma jamma there. It turns about 9,600 RPM. And these other motors are like in the 7,800, 8,000 RPM range. So the one on the ends there special, the Drag Night special. Had that on one of the drag mini bikes that they have, the Drag Night deal. And yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on. And I need to get over to my buddy Ron's house and take a picture of his mini bike that he built. It's got some wheelie bars on it, and it's pretty cool. He built it years ago. Pretty trick little piece. So tomorrow we'll get the oil cooler on here, fan housing installed, and hopefully get this in the bus. And that way I can start to bolt the carburetors on, get everything done, and the exhaust will be my last hurdle. And hopefully this can get out of here Friday, because I know he wants his bus back. And as soon as this leaves, then I can wet sand the lily. I got some things for my hinges today. JC helped me out because Andrew really didn't know what I wanted, but he'd watched the video. These are the deck lid hanger bracket pair. And then of course after I bought those I found these. So not sure about these shims, you know, if I need to put these shims in. I probably do. I see where there's shims in this set of hinges, and no shims in this hinge, and no shims that were on the car. I didn't take the hinges off though. And then I see where this has a little plate, so I'll probably take that off and spray paint that gray, and use these factory bars and keep these off to the side for the next time that I need some. But that's how it is. You buy it, then you find it. So I really got to get organized. Go-kart stuff's really bad. I have all kinds of stuff down here in the junk. Yeah, Avalanche City here. Go-kart guys will hate this because it's just abuse. And here's a billet rod and a Y-scope piston just hanging around. This is an ARC rod, and these are pretty bad. Pretty cool little piece of machine work there. We used to use the stock rods, and now they allow you to use a billet rod because people were just, you know, tearing up motors, breaking the stock rods. Here's a head with a flame slot cut in it. That's one style. And another head here. I got all kinds of heads. There's a WKA. They have to be a certain depth between here and here. And the combustion chamber's got to be a certain volume, and they check all that stuff. Here's a jet cluster here. So you can see the alcohol. The alcohol jets are usually in the 50s, the ones that are missing, you know. 58, 60, 62, 64, 50. 50 is pretty small. That's a wimpy motor. But there's a bunch of camshafts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, one thing HO Motorsports was talking about the cams in these, and let me see if I can show you guys this, because this is pretty interesting. And if you have a racing camshaft that's WK legal, or you know, maybe it was in a certain class, the cam will have this. And this is a horsepower robber, so if you can buy a cam that doesn't have it, it makes much more power. So let me just set you right here, grab a piece of Scotch-Brite. I'm going to set you down. Hope I don't turn you off there. And never a piece of Scotch-Brite when you need it. Oh, there's a piece of 1,000 grit or something. This will work. Just want to clean this up. And this is one of the things that they check for sure. Big advantage if you can get away with this, but you can never get away if they're going to attack you. Unless you're playing like a points game. I only check up to 3rd place. And we figured out that if you finish 4th every week, you know, and then only won a couple weeks out of the series, or in the 3rd or 4th place, you know, you can get tech so bad. But anyway, I'm gonna try to zoom in on this camshaft here, and you can see where the cam has a flat surface right here. You know, the cam actually has a bump in it, and that's called an easy spin, and they check for that. And what that does is it releases the compression. As the piston's traveling up through the power stroke, it pops both valves open and lets the pressure out of the cylinder, so it starts easy. And the all-out race cams will have that feature taken off. But if it's a WKA legal cam, of course that will be on there still. Here's a more an all-out race cam. You can see how it's been ground to the flat there. You know, they used to be round. You have to grind that so the crank will clear through there and the rod. And this one has no easy spin. This is the bad boy here. I forget what grind this is, but it's you can tell by the lobes it's pretty trick, and it's up in the high 400s, almost 500 lift I think on that one. And there's another bad boy. This is a factory stroker cam. You can see how it's relieved too. It's flat instead of round between the lobes. That's so the rod can clear through there. And this one has no easy spin feature either. And these other two are for stock classes or stock medium. So these are probably like this looks like some sort of a dyno cam. It's flat in the center too. It's a big one. But I got all kinds of go-kart stuff. There's another head, very mild. And I got a couple new side covers in there, bearings, all kinds of crap. I need to organize my shop, my life basically. But anyway, we'll get into the go-kart stuff. Used to be way more into it than I am now. Used to build a lot of motors. Junior dragster stuff sort of killed it for me because the motors got so expensive. And it was getting to the point where people were bringing, like $5,000 worth of stuff over to put a one-cylinder motor together. And that stuff breaks. People get really upset. So they have aftermarket blocks for these. After, they use a 4-inch bore, up to a 4-inch bore. That's a small block Chevrolet. So I've seen as much as about 58, 60 horsepower out of one of those 5-horse configurations. Maybe not necessarily a factory block. I think the other thing you were asking about, Fireball, was the breather hoses. And you can see on the big motor there, it's got the stock plate, but they make a plate you can bolt to the valve spring area. And you can ventilate the crank pressure from there. And they usually have some fittings coming out of there, and then they run into a breather box. So that's probably what that canister was, the breather box that attaches to the valve area. That's a stock one. We used to just put the rubber hoses in there and wire tie them, but you can buy the billet plate. They have all kinds of trick stuff for these bad boys now. So, but anyway, we go and shut this down. It's getting long. You guys are probably tired of the yakking, but thanks Kenny for explaining the Google thing. And the only other question I had about the Google Plus thing was the circle thing. I seem to figure it out how to add people or friend people, and I think that puts them in your circle. But it seems like you can only do 25 people a day. So do I need to do, all 3,000 of my subscribers? Do I have to go in there and friend everybody? How's that work? So, but that was a pretty good video for some of us who just aren't that smart, It just seems like nothing to some of you computer guys, but guys that live out here in this environment usually aren't very good with keyboards and mouses. But anyway, I appreciate that video, Kenny. That was pretty cool. And Doug put that video up yesterday. I got to talk to Doug, Lakeside Rancher. He's a cool dude. And yeah, so. But anyway, I'm going to go and shut this off. I'm going to go inside and warm up a little bit, and we'll get back at this tomorrow. And Chip, thanks for being patient. Hope you get to check that mount out there. And Chip likes the video, so he's going to be pissed at Hans because he never did get to see the flywheel video. But anyway, so that's where we're at. That's what we got done, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.